My name is Pam McLaughlin, and I'm going to talk with you about some of my work and some of the materials that I use and where that comes from. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about my background. We were brought up Catholic. We did all of the rituals that you would expect. I had a First Communion, confirmation. We went to church every Sunday. We celebrated holidays and prayed before dinner and before bed. But we weren't really devout Catholics. It kind of felt like we were checking the boxes. Like we did all the things that you're supposed to do, right? And my parents were kind of ill-equipped to parent. I'm not quite sure why. They have their own backgrounds and whatever, but they consciously and subconsciously, I think, drew some aspects of Catholicism into a parenting strategy, such as obedience and punishment, judgment, those kind of conditional things, which basically ended up being, if I was good, I would get praise, I would get love and encouragement. But if I was bad, you know, like fought with my sister or talked back or didn't pick up my things, whatever, I was a bad girl. I was bad, like my whole self was bad. It wasn't just that, oh, you made a mess, that was a bad thing to do. It was, you are bad. And over many years of just hearing that, I took it inside myself and felt like I was really flawed. I had a lot of self-criticism. I became a people pleaser because I didn't want to be the bad one. What can I do to be good? You know, so I was constantly like assessing things. How can I be thought of as good? Oh, I do want to point out, oh shoot, sorry. My first religious work of art is Jesus' head. I found this in this book that we used when I was little. I think I was studying to be for First Communion, and I thought that was hysterical. But one of the pieces in the show, actually that one, Good Little Girl, that has the $50 in it that I would get whenever I got an A on my report card. I'd get one for every A. Something that was really hurtful to me and made me feel, you know, judged or whatever, is that if I got an A minus, my dad would say to me, in particular my dad, with a tone of voice that kind of just goes right through you, so what are we going to do about that minus? What are we going to do about that minus? And it was just like, really? Like an A minus is bad? Because it had the minus, it didn't count, you know? So those kind of little things, they sort of build up over time to really do a number on your psyche. And then when I was 18, I had an abortion, and that adoration and veneration piece is about that. And I was living at college, but I came home, told my parents. They were super you know, like insistent that I don't get an abortion. I fought with them. My mom in particular was very adamant that I go talk to a priest, and I wouldn't do it. So she went and talked to a priest. She took me to get a pregnancy test from a doctor that she chose, because I think now she was thinking that would be the doctor that's going to deliver it, right? So I go, and in the exam room, I get on the exam table, and on the ceiling is like a poster that is kind of religious theme of, like, you know, the miracle of having a baby, God's miracle, whatever. So it was hard, but I ended up getting it. And when I got home, yeah, my mom wouldn't speak to me for several weeks because she had to punish me, right? My dad came into my room and he sat with me and he asked me how I was doing, and it almost seemed like he was doing that, like he was sneaking in to do it so my mom wouldn't know, because they're supposed to be on the same side. And you know, I appreciate that he did that. That's what he was capable of. But anyway, what the miracle of it all is that I had something inside of me with all of that negativity about myself and being bad and trying to please everyone, that I said no. I knew what was right for me, and I did it. And so I'm very proud of it. And I always wanted to make a piece that would honor that experience, because we don't talk about that aspect, you know. So anyway, I'm going to take a breath and water. I am going to now talk a little bit about the work. This is my studio. I use a lot of different materials. I have an affinity for certain kinds of materials, and I basically use whatever works, and that has developed over many years because of certain experiences that I had kind of growing up and just experimenting. And I like to have it all out, that I can see it and I can grab it and do stuff with it. Early on, my parents collected early American antiques, and I have really great memories of going with my mom to estate sales and garage sales and antique stores. And for instance, the wheelbarrow in up there in the corner, we had a huge one in our family room. Like, and we didn't think anything of it. You know, it's like, oh, you put magazines in it or blankets. We had a butter churn on our porch, farm equipment, rusty things, spinning wheel in our living room. And, you know, my mom is the one mostly that picked this stuff out, but I got really comfortable with objects that were taken out of context. You know, they're supposed to be used somewhere else and they're supposed to be functional. None of those were used in the right way or functioning. They were broken and beat up and all of these things. And the material, the rustiness, the wood, all of those things, I absorbed a love for those things. And also in high school, I worked at an antique store, and that was probably one of my favorite jobs I ever had in my whole life, because when customers weren't there, I would create little displays for the items, you know, big and small, weird. I would put them together for like the window, you know, like a display window or in the shelves, and I could constantly change them, and it was kind of to show them off, you know, so people would buy them, get attention to them. But for me, it was just like, ooh, this will look good with that, or ooh, what about this? And, you know, again, that sort of freedom of play, you know, and putting odd things together that make no sense really, but it just was fun. And I'm drawn to artists who have this kind of sensibility. Duchamp, for instance, I think my mom was like a Duchamp and she didn't know it. These ready-mades that he would have. And up in the corner, Ed Keenholz, he's like literally my favorite artist, but I just want to point out, that's called, oh shoot, what is it called? An Illegal Operation from 1962, and that's about abortion, but it's from a different perspective. But you'll see all these interesting rusty wooden things. Mona Hatim was another. And then there's the little people. I have one piece in here with my little people, Holy Mary. But when I was growing up, my friend Amy and I played little people like every day, all day, all summer long. And we would spread out in my parents' basement on this rug, and she would have half of it and I would have half of it. And we created these amazing mansions for our families. I even know my family's name was Callie. The father was Mike Callie. He was a lawyer. I mean, we knew, you know, we had a whole world. And we used things like objects, weird things, to be for the little people. So like we would find a thimble or something and it would be a bucket, or, you know, you're just constantly looking, oh, we could use this for that, or, you know, and it really kind of taught me how objects that are created for one thing can be transformed into something else if you use it in the right way. In addition, we, you know, we played on the floor, and to this day, when I start out making a work of art, I like if I'm using, say, a suitcase or whatever, I'll put that on the floor, I'll grab a bunch of things that I'm thinking about, put them on the floor, and I'll sit there and I'll play with it, just like I did with the little people. It's like a process for me that feels really comfortable and creative, so I still do it. These images that you see I made during COVID to show kind of how boring it is to stay at home. And I would put them on Facebook every once in a while. But I did kind of the same thing, like the buttons and screws I used for weights for when I worked out. Over on the other side, a muselet, which is actually a cage that goes over a cork on a champagne bottle. I had one of those like in a bucket of things, and it smashed and rusted, and I put it on a little wooden cube, and I don't know if you can see in the family room, let's see if I can use this, right there, it's a sculpture. So this is it, a little close up, and then the cabinet knob becomes a lamp. Why not, right? So doing that kind of thing really impacted me. I also was majored in art education for a while. Well, I did, and I just didn't work in it after, but we had to use materials that were appropriate for young children. So that meant a lot of craft kind of related materials, not high art at all. Cheap, free, you know, developmentally appropriate for young kids, all those things. So pom-poms isn't out of the, you know, realm of possibility for me, and a whole lot of other things. I also, when we lived in San Francisco a few years back, this guy had this workshop, this ongoing workshop. He had been a resident at Recology, which is San Francisco dump. And artists go there and they're able to use everything in the dump for their art, and then they have a show in their gallery there. So since he had done that, he had access, and he would bring truckloads of junk and just bring it up and put it on all these tables, and we had drills and rivet things, and that was an amazing experience. So I'm not the only one who does this kind of thing. Like with the ready-mades, these are some artists that use unusual objects that I really love. Jessica Stockholder uses a lot of shells and beads, ping pong balls, fabric. Sarah Z with her office material, office supplies and string. Felix Gonzalez Torres, I was really influenced with Carnival. That's candy, pieces of candy, but he made this related to a memorial for someone that he loved, and it was about AIDS. So it's completely different, but the materials and just the concept of having it in a pile I really liked. And then Scott Hove, who is a new discovery, makes these amazing cake-like sculptures with faux cherries and fruits and pearls and all sorts of things. And when I was putting this together, I actually noticed there's a disco ball here, and a couple disco balls here, and I have a disco ball over there. So it's like, oh, did I copy them? Did they copy me? No. Bodily objects, religious objects more recently, but I've always been drawn to things of the body because to me they remind me that someone lived, and they also remind me that death is real. And the things that I love about those objects too is that they exist after you die. So when someone disintegrates, I mean, their bones can hang around forever. You know, the nails last forever. The nails, I actually, when I was a small child, at bed at night, I would sometimes hear my parents arguing, or I would be very nervous about going to school the next day, or just feel yucky. And to self-soothe, I would tear the fingernail tips off my fingernails, and I would put them in a little pile on my nightstand. And, you know, I would, you know, make sure they were in a nice pile. It was very, very soothing, pretty sad and disgusting and a lot of other things. But here we are, and now I clip them, and I have, you can't read this, but this pill bottle says 2015, 2016, 2017. So I collect them, and I keep them in a pill jar. I have one going in my bathroom right now. So yeah, and with the blood, which it's not real blood in the piece over there because the vials that they give me didn't work with the piece, but the nurse at my doctor's office thinks it's cool that I work with blood, so she sneaks me 2 extra vials when I have my physical every year.
That's funny.
I just hope she doesn't retire. So yeah. And then Barbies I've been using in my work a lot. Usually they are a stand-in for something about feminism or pain or body image. In 2005 I made a series of doll sculptures called the Pharma series, and each doll was based on a medication that I had been on up to that point. And I'm just going to list them, see if you are familiar with any of them. Xanax, Depakote, Wellbutrin, Paxil, Ambien, Klonopin, Cerazone, Lexapro, Lamictal, Abilify, Ativan, Boost Bar, and Seroquel. So that was up to 2005. I've been on more since, and I'm only on one now, so, you know, whatever works. But I just wanted to show kind of the pain of that through the dolls. It was cathartic, and my husband photographed them, and we made these little books. This one's falling apart. It's the only one I have. It was like 20 years ago. So, and latex. Ava Hess, along with Ed Keenholz, my favorite artist. This is all latex. It's so like fragile and visceral and reminds me of skin. Again, that bodily association that I love. And I have, let's see, Forgiveness I use it in, and then Carnival and Good Little Girl with the red kind of viscera. I made latex sheets, and then I put wads of toilet paper on it, and then another layer, and then just built it up and then painted it to get that kind of bulbous surface. And I want to talk a little bit about my research. Like when I wanted to do something about my abortion, and then this show came up, I decided to actually research rituals in Catholicism and objects used in the Catholic Mass. My husband jokes a lot that, you know, for someone who was brought up Catholic, I know nothing about my religion. I know those rules, you know, the ones that keep you in control, but I really don't know anything else. So I came upon the monstrance. I didn't even know that was the name, and that it was used in Mass for presenting the Eucharist and having people adore it and venerate it. And I just found out today, well maybe yesterday, this guy, or this priest, he's holding it, right? And his robe is covering his hands. They do that because they want to have a separation between the human and God or Jesus or whatever who's represented in the monstrance. So that's kind of like a gesture to separate them from it, which is, you know, could do a piece on that. But so I knew I wanted to use a little suitcase I had because I felt like the abortion kind of thing would sit in there. But I used a material up here. It was kind of like a waxy, well not waxy, kind of gummy material that you put in like a skillet and you melt it, and then I put objects in, and then it would kind of dry, or and then I would kind of make a blobby thing, and it just didn't work out. For months I thought I was going to do that. I even had like a woman's torso underneath here. I had, you know, all sorts of fabric, and over time it developed into what you see over there where I use silicone for. And you know, hadn't really gone, I wanted to do something different than the monstrance, so I was staying away from gold leafing it, but then I just decided to dive in and make it completely like that. But before it was like that. So up here are actual pregnancy tests that I used when Bob and I threw caution to the wind for a period a long time ago. And so they actually have urine stains on them still, some of them you can see. But they fit perfect to be the rays. I mean, it just worked out great. And then lastly, the forgiveness piece. I don't know if any of you have ever read Margaret Atwood. She has a short story called Hairball. I read it decades ago, and it's about this woman who has a cyst, and she gets an operation, and the doctor gives her the cyst. She takes it home, puts it in a jar, puts it on her mantle, and names it Hairball, and has conversations with it. And it just blew me away. It was hysterical and disgusting and fascinating, all the things I love about Margaret Atwood. So I actually made some hairballs with my hair, but they were like very literal. They were balls, and I put them in a jar, you know, and I always wanted to revisit that. And so I started researching actual cysts and what they looked like. And these are real, and you can see teeth, you know, hair, the way they glisten. There's fingernails in them. They're just really disgusting and amazing. And I thought they would be a great metaphor for kind of the trauma or my issues with my parents that I'm trying to have something good grow out of. You know, that I can hold it and know it happened, but I can also go on and let the pain of it go and have new growth. So that's why I used the metaphor, that's why I used the dermoid. And these are just some shots of how I made them, like with little clay balls, and I would put latex over them, many layers, and then using cotton and latex and Vaseline and hair and teeth, I would make the insides and then stuff them in and play with them. So that's just some process shots. And then these are just in process, some of the things. They didn't just come out like you see them, like there's a lot of hit or miss. So yeah, so that's me. I'm done. Thank you for listening. I guess we're going to do questions after Vykky talks. So.
My name is Vykky Ebner. I'm the other artist in this exhibition. And I just want to thank you all for coming and thank ArtRage and thank ArtRage and thank Pam for being here and for doing this with me. I have 1 year experience in illustration from Mohawk Valley Community College, and I have almost 2 years of fine art training from Onondaga Community College. Even though I don't hold a degree, I've had work featured on the SF MoMA's Instagram and Tumblr. I was on the cover of Stone Canoe Journal. I was offered a partial scholarship to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago about 10 years ago, but I didn't get to go because life happened. And in 2023, I was shortlisted for Art Basel through Primitives XYZ. This is the clicker.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was 19, I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. I like to start here because it helps people know that they aren't alone, and it helps break the stigma of mental illness. It's also pertinent to my work, and that's another reason why I'm sharing.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Let me just show you. I don't think this is on.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay.
This, you can print it.
Okay.
It's this thing.
All right.
This thing.
Okay.
Isn't this where you want me?
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Okay, hopefully you can hear me better now.
Yes.
So when I was 16, I learned what agnosticism and what atheism were, and I decided that I was an atheist. But when I was 16, I was also supposed to be friends with somebody at school who started carrying a Bible around every day. And every day she would tell me I was going to hell. Yeah, some friend. And at the same time, my parents had taken in a friend of my brother's who actually turned out to be kind of mentally and emotionally abusive towards me. So when I was home, I was getting someone telling me that no one would ever love me, and then I'd go to school and you're going to hell. And it broke me down, and by the end of the year, I just ended up going to church with this girl. And that's how I got involved in the evangelical church. When I started going to church, there was a lady there that told me I shouldn't be dressing the way that I dressed. I was a very alternative kid. It was 1996, and I was wearing really baggy clothes and chains, and she told me I should take off my chains, and then she bought me this sweater vest that was like white with like roses on it, and like up to here. It was just awful, but I wanted to wear it to be nice, and so I did one day, and I just felt like, what is this? So when I went to Mohawk Valley, about a year, I was going to church with that girl, and I was still getting bullied by her. And that's what this painting is about. I decided to paint the girl, and there's also a story in the Bible. I decided to twist it about a king that has God's hand come down and write on a wall and tell him he's basically fucked. And so I took that story and I twisted it. And I decided instead of a man's hand, I would use my own hand. And I used the girl's face, and I wrote the words, "Do you still tell other people that they're going to hell, or was that just me?" And I wrote those words in the Lansbury font because a really important band to me at the time was Smashing Pumpkins. And in the 90s, they really used the Lansbury font a lot. At one point, this girl had come over for a weekend that my parents were gone and convinced me after my psychotic break to destroy my extensive collection of Smashing Pumpkins memorabilia. So, so when I was in Mohawk Valley, this is where everything kind of started. I was going to church about once or twice a week, but then it amped up to like 4 times a week. At one point, I thought that I committed the unpardonable sin, and I started getting conflicting voices in my head. And I started cutting myself and fasting, and made a suicide threat, and that eventually landed me in the hospital. So these ones, I wanted to put them together because, oh wait. I also want to acknowledge that after about 2 years of having my diagnosis, I ended up going to a ministry school because I thought that God was telling me to go to ministry school and I could do art on the side, and there was something in me that kind of rebelled against it. because I spent all my time skateboarding and making art. So I put these two together because they kind of go together with the same, they're about the same person. When I was in the ministry school, I made friends with somebody whose dad was a pastor, and they knew I was on psych meds, and he would bring me to his church, and every week the dad would look at me and talk about the evils of psychiatric medication. And one day he put his hand on my shoulder and said, if you got off those meds, you'd be closer to God. And that's what the church is about. And then, after I was, done with this, tired of it, I decided I would leave his church. And he called one day and he said, why don't you come over and talk to me about why you're leaving my church? So I went over to his house, and him and his wife took me into a soundproof basement, and pointed out to me that it was soundproof, so nobody could hear them. And for 2 hours they berated me about my medication, why I'm leaving their church, just all kinds of crazy accusations. So in the basement, which is the second one here, I displayed him as a whale jawbone because I wanted to give the impression that I felt like I was the great white whale. I was 23 years old, and this is me, I don't know where the laser pointer is. There it is. This is me at 23 years old, and this is the soundproofing. Another Bruderhof. When I was going to the ministry school, I met a kid who didn't go to the school, but his band practiced in the school. And one day he invited me to go to the Bruderhof with a group of his friends. I didn't know what it was. So I said okay, and I was one of the people driving to the Bruderhof. And it was an Anabaptist commune, founded early last century. The men and women are very different. The men are allowed to shop at Sears, but the women have to make their own clothes and wear head coverings. I remember doing chores, and the hosts were really kind, so there's some nuance there, but I also made each building a building that I remember, and I did them over and over. So this building here, this is the dining hall, where before meals we would all sing a song collectively. And this is the house where I stayed. This one I remember walking through. So that brings us to gatherings. So when I was 35, in 2015, I had the scholarship to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and I was planning to go. I was also in a relationship with someone that ended up being a domestic violence situation. and I ended up in the domestic violence shelter via house. So what I did here was, there's a story in the Bible, and I twisted it again, about a man on a hill, and he's got all these demons in him, and Jesus comes to him and he says, Jesus, get these demons out of me, and he sent him into those pigs. And there's this group of pigs, and he sends the demons into the pigs, and the pigs run off a cliff and go into the water and die. And so my ex was a physics doctoral candidate working with CERN, and what I did was I took some of their equations from a published paper of cutting-edge physics in 2017, and put them into the pigs, like I'm sending the pigs off the cliff. So that's what I did here. Enjoy. I made this on Christmas morning because I wanted to be cheeky towards Christmas. I also wanted to celebrate the help that medicine's given me, because I wouldn't be able to be here without it. And here's some of my older work. This one is called Two-Headed Deer, Upside Down Two-Headed Deer. And it's about my mom's death. And this one is called The Runner Part 1. It was originally supposed to be part of a triptych, but that didn't happen. But I drew a lot of different stuff, wrote a lot of different things I was thinking and feeling after my mom died. So this is from 2010, and my deer's from 2013. And I know there's stuff I wanted to say that I forget, but that's all I think. Thank you.
We can sit here if you have any questions. I see a hand. I don't know who it is, but yes.
Yeah, I'm going to stand just so I can see.
I got you.
First, just thank you. Thank you each, both.
Thank you.
For your creativity, your willingness to go into your own histories, your courage, your ability to share, express your pain and your health and your goodness. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say a quick little thing in full disclosure mode. I've been a Catholic priest for 15 years.
Oh no!
Married now 30 years, still active in the Catholic Church and in a Protestant congregation. I'm also a marriage and family therapist and part of the post-trauma response team here in the county.
Oh, wow.
So I've done a fair amount of counseling over my life as well with some of the issues that you have lived and shared. And I obviously can't speak for the whole religious community in any sense, but I nevertheless want to just say I'm sorry for the way that that has been held over both of your heads in ways that you had to grow through and continue to celebrate who you are and life as it is and keep going on. So thanks for that.
Thanks, we will.
And I hope you'll get a chance. I could go off on a couple different tangents, but I won't do that. I don't want to take the time, but I'm glad to chat with you about
Yeah, definitely.
about how a
Love to
monstrance works.
Thank you.
For example. But anyway, but the point, there might be an opportunity, and I'm not sure how, but I'm involved with a couple of different interreligious groups, and I'm just thinking how it would be challenging, but healthy for them to have the opportunity to not only see this opportunity and listen to you, but I want to talk with you further about how that could possibly happen.
We would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
I would too. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, we'll connect, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Other questions, anything, comments? Yeah.
I just, wanted definitely to echo this gentleman, that I just thank you so much for your honesty and for bringing, what you've done and how you've lived experience to the fore as many of the artists, Pam, that you showed, And the one thing that I think is just, I have many favorites in the whole gallery, but is this tumor piece. Because it does feel very much, it feels very Renaissance-like. It feels very, a lot of these pieces, for me, feel very kind of medieval, like your own manuscript in a way. But this piece in particular with the bell jar is this kind of, this is happening, and is it ugly or beautiful, it's beautiful to many, and how life has grown out of that. So I just wanted to say thank you, because a lot of the work, that to me is like the metaphor of both of your works, of that little slip of green grass. And the other thing I want to thank you so much for are the narratives, because those really kind of click in, or help the viewer click into what you're thinking. It's nothing secretive or anything like that. Yeah, I want to tell you about this, in this way. So I really appreciated those, the writing, and they're just beautiful.
Wow,
beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate hearing that. Nancy?
I wanted to mention the text as well, because in an academic setting, I'm sometimes besieged by really ridiculous, contorted uses of language. And this is just, it's like the clear surface of a lake. It's a really wonderful use of language to go with what you have made. And I know, Pam, I said something, you should talk about the writing. And you were surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised.
And so maybe you could each say something about kind of how you approach the writing, because this is what we strive to have MFA students learn to do, is to not write gobbledygook. And so you've both achieved that here.
I mean, for me, it was just about being as honest as I could. Like, I didn't think about, other artists or my favorite buzzwords, discourse, epistemology, blah, 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 But I really just, I had the viewer in mind. I really wanted this work. And because also I thought that some of it might be offensive in some way, because it's religious is touchy, right? Religion is touchy subject. I wanted people to know, like, why, what this is about. So it was nothing more than that. It was really like stripped down to just that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
And you as well, Vykky.
Thank you.
The narratives are terrific. They really are.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of like on the same page as Pam. I was just trying to be honest, and this is where I'm at. This is why I made this.
And what's striking is that it's clear that you're both pretty literate and knowledgeable about kind of where you are in a community of artists. You have influences, you understand what they're doing, you have a certain approach to materials, and still you resist this kind of being performative with language. So it's just, we should be sending our students here.
Please do. Oh, too bad, it's summer.
Well, just to kind of strike off on what Nancy is saying, for me, it is like the manuscript, right? It is the written word. And it would be interesting to do a book, of image and text
Mhm.
together very much. I don't want to use this as the example, but you know, the little Jesus book that you had on your first slide, Pam.
Oh, yeah.
Like the lamb, oh, it's not just, you know, a mammal or a sheep, it's this.
It's God.
You know,
Yeah.
so it could be an interesting
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, I'd love to make a children's book.
Yeah. I'm serious.
Yeah.
You're the second person who suggested they make a book, so,
Yeah.
so do it.
Yeah, I love the suggestion. We have so much to think about and do. This is like just the beginning. Bill.
I'd buy the book.
I give one to you. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I'm very proud of both of you,
Oh, thank you.
and I'm Vicky's father.
Yeah. A hand for Vicky's father.
The judges that are out there, it's not for me to judge, or anyone else. And if you're a believer in God, then you're gonna have to answer to somebody,
Yep. And that's okay.
and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever
But
works.
it's not my place,
Right. Yeah.
so I love your work,
Thank you.
Thank you.
and you said a few things that I wasn't aware of. I don't know what I would have done at the time that, if you would have told me at the time.
It's hard. It's emotional. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, yes, please.
For people who are going into like the arts, like theater or like what you guys do, like do you have any advice for people going in, because sometimes it can be dark and difficult to get into the field because it is so competitive?
Yeah.
What do you have anything to say for
God.
people who are going in?
I took such a weird route to be where I am now. Like, my parents wouldn't let me major in art because they didn't think it was like legitimate. They encouraged me when I was young, and then all of a sudden, oh no, you've got to do something. So I took like surface pattern and graphic whatever. It was horrible. I hated it all. And then I landed in art ed because, oh, that's legit. You're a teacher, you know. And then I got into museums. You know, I never went away. I sort of like found my way to infiltrate. And I met a lot of artists in my museum work, became friends with, and I exposed myself to art. I would say, you know, whatever you're gonna do to keep the flame alive of your process, your creativity and your expression somehow. It could go dormant for like 10 years. I mean, I would get so anxious about making, I couldn't go down to my studio. I would literally sit in the floor of my closet with the door shut because it just terrified me to go in my studio, because I'm gonna make something that's gonna suck, or I'm not gonna make it right away. And if I don't make it right away, what's the point? You know, all these horrible things. So any way you can express yourself, try. But you know, you have to make a living too. Yeah, I get that, you know, but that's just,
I never thought of it that way, thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, and definitely like keep going. When you get discouraged, just keep going. Because there's going to be people that try to bring you down, and you don't need that. Because there's more people that are going to lift you up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
stick with your friends. They'll help you.
Yeah.
Your naysayers are not worth the time.
Right. Well, thank you again. Oh, Dottie, yes.
And you don't have to answer this because it's more of a personal question. I'm just wondering how the two of you found each other.
Well, Vykky, at my work at the Everson Museum, every year for a while there, we had this thing called 60-60, where we invited 60 artists to create work under the tent outside, and they had an hour to do it, 60 minutes. And there were coffee cans set by each of them, and we sold tickets to people who, if they wanted to win the piece, they could buy tickets. And she was making this amazing painting with this, like, was it a monkey?
Yeah, it was monkey.
It was a monkey, and it was like so, like, wow, I've never seen anything like it before. And I bought all these tickets, and I put them in the coffee can, and I didn't get her piece, but I hung out by her, and we started talking, and we decided to go out for coffee, and that's really how it started. She was in it another time, and I did win her piece. And I do have several others, my husband and I. That one we own. It's on loan here, just for the show. We'll take it back.
And the little guy too.
Oh yeah, and the little guy. Yeah, that tiny, tiny one up there. So yeah, we had a lot in common and didn't have a lot in common. It was weird, you know?
Vykky, so you have a monkey here, and monkeys have shown up in other paintings of yours. Does the monkey specifically symbolize something for you?
It depends on the piece.
Okay.
Yeah, this one was just kind of an attitude, like,
Yes.
I wanted to take like I was doing these pieces with like all this writing in the background, and I wanted to do that with some of the black that I was starting to use, and so I have 3 grade 8s, and 2 of them are in black, and the one in the middle, it just represents like religion and how we probably look.
I love it. I love it even more. I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Hope to talk to you.